So thanks a lot, Rini. We are a little rushed for time, sir, because the governor is expected any time soon. So this session was really about, you know, the geopolitical swivels and technological tsunamis. So what are these swivels in geopolitics? And are we at a very unique moment, technology moment? These are the two questions that we'll try and address together. And also, if we have some time, what are the attendant implications on India's national security? So, by way of opening remarks, I'll just focus on this. In my mind, there are two swivels which we should take note of geopolitically, and there are, of course, two aspects of technology which are really in this the tsunami kind, which once again we should take note of. So very quickly, the first swivel that I would like to point out is this, that I see geopolitics pivoting very sharply from what was once economic primacy to what is now, a national security driver. So in 1990, Bill Clinton said that it's the economy stupid, meaning that at the end of the day, what mattered was just the economy. As I said, I see the world moving greatly towards national security stupid in a big way. And the second thing that I would like to point out, and this is a lesson we might like to note in the Indian context, that geopolitics is extremely unforgiving of those that are disrespectful, negligent, or innocent about national security. It spares nobody, not the rich and prosperous Europe, and not the mighty United States of America. So let's look at Europe, which is the current flavor. It is the richest cohort in the world. It had some contempt for national security. I've seen it as a colonel brigadier growing up. When the Europeans were asked to provide troops for Iraq and Afghanistan, one of the armies said, we don't fight patrol by night. So armies patrol by day, is it? But that was the contempt. The other country was asked to give troops, they said, offered dogs. And the richest cohort in the world, and an absolute absence of any strategic foresight, just refusing to spend any money on defense. Merkel, who was then the heroine of Germany, today is being pilloried, thought she could sue for peace with Putin by offering gas and energy. Look at this. Russia is a $2 trillion economy. The combined West is $41 trillion. And who's winning on ground? Russia. All because Europe was so contemptuous of national security till Trump came and threw them under the bus. If you actually ask me, this is one area where I agree with Trump. Europe, this is really a wake-up call for Europe to start spending on defense. And now, every leader without exception is talking of 4%, 5%, 6% of GDP on defense, all of a sudden. So where was the wisdom of the past? The Chancellor-to-be of Germany, Friedrich Merz, is talking of rearming the German military. He's talking of a European nuclear deterrent. So that is the issue with regard to Europe. Let's look at Ukraine. This audience would know that in 1994 or so, Ukraine signed what was a trilateral agreement between Russia, USA, and China, by way of which it ceded its nuclear weapons. So look at this, 1,900 nuclear warheads, I'm told, 176 ICBMs, and 44 strategic bombers, which were in Ukraine's inventory, were given to the Russians, or to then Soviet Union. The Russians got independence from the Soviet Union, and look what's happening then to today. Not only is the Ukrainian sovereignty at stake, using Ukrainian nuclear weapons, Putin is waving the nuclear rattle. Now this is, innocence of a very extreme kind. Mighty USA. There was a town which fell a year back, February 24, Advika. And now I'm quoting the CIA director of the last administration, William Burns. He said, before surrendering in Advika, we took a stock of the inventories of 2 operational brigades. One had 15 artillery rounds left, and the other had 44 mortar rounds. And when he spoke to Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, Austin told him, sir, we cannot give you any ammunition till 2027. And this is the mighty United States of America. Today, it doesn't have 7 days of precision munitions and missiles to fight in Taiwan, while China is churning out 10,000 cruise missiles a week. And I checked these figures twice. 10,000 cruise missiles a week. This is because they have neglected the military industrial complex. We heard of the J-36. Now, all the stealth and all that comes with J-36 is one matter. But what is striking is that the J-36, if it gets rolled out in 2032, the American equivalent, the NAGD, Next Generation Air Dominance or something, which is the 6th generation platform, doesn't come until 2037. The Americans in military aviation are falling behind the Chinese for the first time in history. If you noticed, Admiral Paparo, the present C&C IPACOM, just 3 weeks back in the Financial Times, said that these exercises that the Chinese are carrying out, they are no longer exercises. They are rehearsals for attack. And, you know, all that he has to offer if the Chinese attack, their aircraft carriers cannot get into the first island chain. All he has to offer is hellscape, which is autonomous systems. Look at the dramatic change in the power balance and what will it do to American power projection in the Indo-Pacific. So I have pointed out to you how geopolitics is getting brutally back at those countries which were negligent of national security. In my view, we could be in a pre-war moment with China. I'm not saying it's happening, but it's a very likely possibility. And this is the time to step up our game so that come 2028, 2030, if we are faced with a similar moment, we don't get embarrassed like the Americans did in Advika. So we should very carefully pay attention to this. The second swivel is, you know, this renegade world order which has been unleashed upon us by Trump. Now, this morning, Samir Saran was here, and he was very clear that all that Trump is doing is that he's winding down conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East so as to laser-focused on China, militarily. Now, if that is true, it is very good news, because we need the Americans to come and focus on the Chinese in the Indo-Pacific. But there is, if you read the MAGA campaign and his other ideologues, there is another version of the Trump view which is emerging, Trump worldview, which is driven by a fundamental metamorphosis in the nature of American power. And now if this is true, it is bad news for India. Now what is this? American power so far was premised on what is called freedom to roam the globe. So you spend $950 billion, you had 80 bases, 800 bases in 80 countries, 11 aircraft carriers. And by so roaming the globe, in every theater you said, no hegemon will emerge to challenge the United States. So Russia is kept in check by Europe, China is kept in check by the allies. Now President Trump is arguing, he said, let's slash our budgets by 50%. He's telling the Chinese and the Russians, let's slash our budgets by 50% because his MAGA team, through internal reviews, has told him that we can push the Chinese on technology, we can push them on trade, we can push them on tariffs, but we are not in a position to contest them militarily, which means it could lead to these three ecospheres, and Trump has alluded to them in some measure. Russia led Europe, China led Asia, while America retreats to the Western Hemisphere, builds up its military capacity, so on and so forth, before it comes back, which would lead India to parley with China on its own in the strategic military sphere. So, you know, this sphere, if this is the grand design of America, it's bad news for India, because it will lead to unipolar Asia, one tiger on a hill, and India will be left alone. So what do we need to do? Very simply, we need to put our instrument of force, get it to the center of our strategic calculus. Now that has happened in the last 10 years. We are taking our military, Atmanirbhar and defense far more seriously. But that is not to say that we are nourishing it adequately, we are resourcing it adequately. In my view, the lag is only growing, especially the technological lag. So we have to do far more than what we are doing currently, step up our game to strengthen our deterrence. And now the time has come after 10 years of Atmanirbhar in defense, not to now talk of, seminars and AONs and so on and so forth. We have to measure our preparedness in terms of operational readiness, lethality, and what we give to the sailor, soldier, airman in the field. Otherwise, it's pointless. Only capacities which reach our fleets and formations will deter the Chinese. Now, this is the hard reality, but I think we have to brace up to it. Insofar as the technological tsunamis are concerned, there's so much happening in the technology sphere, but I'll just point to two. One is, all the future seems to be exponential autonomy at declining cost, both in deterrence and warfighting, precise mass. So these drone swarms, which lie at the embrace of AI and a whole emerging storm of technologies. If you study Ukraine carefully, and now this is my reading of Ukraine, dronery has emerged as a science, as a different arm. It is leading infantry assaults, it is leading armor assaults. Even the J-36 is going to have what is called a CAS, a collaborative aircraft system, which is nothing but cutting-edge swarms in lakhs and millions. Please note this. 2/3 of Russian losses in Ukraine, men and equipment, have been caused neither by the infantry, nor by the armor, nor by the artillery, but by drones. That's how dramatic it is. The drones have been twice as effective as any other instrument in the Ukrainian arsenal. And they are only being improved by FPVs and fiber optic drones now, which you cannot even jam. These drones have gone through trenches, they've gone through tank turrets, they've also been used as strategic air power. And one other, I think somebody spoke about it, Air Marshal Sushdev. If we have this drone missile force, we need to have missiles like Oreshnik, which send shivers through Western capitals and which will also deter China. So in this technology space, we have to focus a great deal on autonomy. I think it has to come up as a separate service, if not a separate arm, or we are going to trail in the technology sphere greatly. My last point on technology is from DeepSeek. Now, we've all heard of DeepSeek. It is not only, the Chinese have not only done it at 1/20th of cost, they've done it on low-grade GPUs, ration GPUs. So there is a lot of algorithmic innovation behind this. And now this should worry us. If you study the 5 papers that have been written after the DeepSeek came out, it has been, I'm told there are 200 plus authors of those papers. And what should really scare us is that out of this 200, half of them are homegrown talent. They are not the ones which went to American universities. Now, if it is homegrown talent, it means the best and the brightest in the technology sphere are now in China, so you'll get more of quantum, you'll get more of other technologies, all with military implications. Just, I think, last week, Satya Nadella announced this Majorana 1, if I pronounce it right, which is, a quantum computing capacities based on topo clusters. And it's amazing. He says that if you put that quantum chip in your palm, it will give you more computing power than all the world's computers put together. Now, that's the way computing is moving. So what we need now in Atmanirbhar and defense is 2 things. One is orders, orders, and orders. There are a lot of startups here, a lot of other private sector people who are just waiting for orders. Enough of talk. Orders, orders, and orders must happen, or we will not grow to the next phase of Atmanirbhar and defense. And in the sphere of R&D and technology that I spoke of, we must focus on compute, compute, and compute. That is the next oil. That is the next step beyond data. So these were the 4 points, in my view, which constitute what I really think are geopolitical swivels and technological tsunamis. I now turn the floor to Admiral Anup Singh for his views, please.
Thank you, Raj. I ditto everything that General Shukla said. He's covered the entire gamut of the topic that's been given to us. So I'm not going to repeat anything except to give you a slightly different, not different from what he said, different perspective to also put you on speed with what is happening in the world insofar as the term geopolitics is concerned. You've all seen what is the topic given to us, to this panel. It said geopolitical swivels and technological tsunamis. So if I'm sure if all of you have some time or the other gone through the definition of geopolitics either on Google or somewhere else, and because this is the most oft repeated term over the last half a century. What does it say? It says geopolitics, or words to that effect, is a study of the effect of geography, economics, demography, and such other factors. The meaning is very clear. And all writings and commentaries on geopolitics, global or regional, have maneuvered and moved around this particular definition. But what is happening since the 20th of Jan? You're all aware what has happened in the office of POTUS. First of all, the greatest predictability since before 20th Jan, about 20th Jan and the 4 years thereafter, was unpredictability based on what happened in the first term. And he started off with that, not only with the rest of the world, but starting off with DOGE and offering golden handshakes to his federal employees and saying, go home. But that's insofar as America itself is concerned, but it affects relations with the rest of the world and what is going to happen insofar as global economy is concerned in different ways. Now, since the 20th of January, the inflection point has been such, driven by POTUS, that everything in the world seems to be swiveling because of decisions made after that date. The first thing that has happened is that the focus, instead of going on the definition of geopolitics, is on the 3 T's that have almost clearly been announced by him in plain language. Trade, tariff, and technology. Trade, tariffs, and technology. Everybody from China to Mexico to Canada, the neighbors, and the arch enemy, and India are being affected by it. 10% added yesterday for China. The threat to Greenland, you heard about it this morning, is real. Not that he's going to take over, but it is real. As you heard this morning, actually, let me give you a little inkling to what is so great in Greenland. Not only strategically located, not only is it a dependency of Denmark, a small Scandinavian country with hardly any military power or strategic power, but it has one of the largest reservoirs of rare earths. And if I remember correctly, sometime in 2013 or 14, there was big news on the net that China has had a deal with Denmark worth only $350 million to mine for rare earths. Why? China has always had an urge to create a monopoly for itself for rare earths. And where are they used? In your mobile phones, in avionics, in cars, in control systems of every precision machinery. So China already has almost 90% control over rare earths everywhere. The 10% he wants to control there, plus, as I said, a strategic outpost. What else did he announce? Make the equivalent of a French Riviera in Gaza. And he's meaning it to become real because he said it in front of, with Netanyahu sitting beside him, who was smiling. What else? That brings me to the talk of technological tsunamis. You've all been sort of shot at by AI over the last 1 year plus. Strictly speaking, there is no time to delve into it, but artificial intelligence is not new. In my life, in the Navy, I started looking at AI when the first color tactical display came about in the navies of the world. And we received it first time in early 1990s. The second time, when you got away from the protector, divider, and making relative velocity triangles. Similarly, at the same time or slightly before that, the Air Force, air forces of the world, the modern ones including ours, and particularly civil aviation started receiving what is called TCAS, collision avoidance systems. That's all artificial intelligence. So it's not new. But there is a huge revolution. And it is India's time to double down on its talent pool, which, as you know, is one of the best, if not the best, in the world. And it is wide-ranging thanks to our demographic dividend. So what is, since time has just run out, it shows 20 minutes of our panel discussion time is over. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon, I must say, that POTUS has done, despite the near hug with Zelensky, President Zelensky of Ukraine at the recommissioning of the Notre Dame, where we thought he is now going to sort out everything after 20th Jan, it didn't happen. He's cursing him. So there is an old adage which says, proxies are destined to be doormats of history, and that's what he is trying to now define the president of Ukraine as. End of the story, your time is up, and he is on the side of Russia. Putin was already smiling. His economy didn't go down with the sanctions. What should we be doing? Firstly, as General Raj Shukla told you, it is now the time for us and many others to wake up to national security being the in thing and not the economy stupid. Therefore, we must devise things because of our economy not being as racy as that of China. The economic might not being 5 times our actual economy at this moment, as China can afford to build a navy of 400 odd ships and build its air force and its strategic forces at almost 3 times that of ours. Therefore, learn to deter, to dissuade. And we've got a huge advantage insofar as the maritime domain is concerned, as you heard in the morning. That of the logistic train in the Army's language, which means that in our own home waters around the peninsula, we call the shots. That's why the Chinese haven't sent an aircraft carrier. Till now, they are incapable of sustaining blue water capability in our waters. But they will do it soon enough. That's why they are building up. The next thing we need to do, as General Raj Shukla said, I must repeat that, unmanned systems, all focus and all diversion of funds insofar as capital acquisition now are concerned, must have a major share towards unmanned systems. Drones, drones, and drones, including underwater. And finally, we must create properly a defense industrial base, which means a hell of a lot of investment and support and encouragement to the private sector, from MSMEs to big industries, not just PSUs. Thank you very much. Our time is up. Time shows 00.
All right. So, gentlemen, don't clap because the governor has got stuck in traffic, so we have some more time. So, since we have more time, let me just throw 3 ideas. So, what do we do to fix it? In my view, we must do 3 very complicated things, but I'll try and put them as simply as possible. There is no doubt that, somebody was talking in the morning, look at how our strategic environment is getting grimmer by the moment. There is, of course, the whole China factor along the LAC in the seas and in the air. Pakistan must not be taken lightly. I think Marshal Chaudhry was making this point. Not only are they benefiting from Chinese collusivity, but from Turkey. Erdogan was recently in Pakistan. He went to Indonesia and Malaysia and signed off a whole lot of deals, especially in drones. And Turkey is this drone superpower. And the third, I think General Nair pointed out to it, we have a new national security reality developing along the Bangladesh-Myanmar border. It is very serious business. So what should we do? I think we have balanced greatly along the LAC. I'm not saying that things are not going to get difficult, but we have done everything possible. We just need to resource that with a whole lot of technologies which are available with our startups. I can name them. They have to give given orders, and you will have persistent surveillance dronery along the LAC, which will give you fail-proof deterrence. And thereafter, focus on three things. I'll just take 30 seconds more. I can see Rini climbing the stage. 30 seconds. One is stealth-based offensive air power. That is our biggest weakness today. Second is our AD topology. Look at what the Israelis have got. THAAD, this, that, and the other, Patriots. We are grievously exposed in this dimension. And the third, I think, there is no option but to have a drone missile force which complements our air power. Either or is not an option. And the last point is this. I think Monty made a reference to this. The military component of the power differential with China annually is $450 billion. There is a limit to valor and there is a limit to asymmetricity. Our economists simply have to find the money. Could be $500 billion over 8 years, 10 years, but we have to find the money. And I'll just end by saying this, that deterrence is costly, but wars are costlier. You don't believe me? Ask the Ukrainians. Thank you very much. I think we've run out of time.